It's time to make it. Just give it a try. 'Cause you can make it like the old fat guy.
Thanks for watching this episode of You Can Make It. Today the old fat guy is going to make beef ribs. Now this is just a basic beef rib recipe that you can do in the smoker. If you don't have a smoker, you can do it in a 225 degree oven, but it just won't be the same. It won't have the nice crusty coating from the smoke, it won't have the taste, but it will be delicious. So how do I do basic beef ribs? Well, first you get some ribs. What I have here is 1.5 kilograms, or about 3 pounds of beef ribs. Now these happen to be prime beef ribs, and the problem with them is that it comes off the same part as the prime rib roast, and butchers get a lot of money for that, so they cut them quite lean. They haven't done too bad a job here. There's some meat in there, but they did do a couple of starting cuts, which I don't appreciate, but you take what you get from the butcher. To get the ribs started, I'm going to give them a rub. We're just doing a basic rub today, and what I have here is 6 milliliters or 1 1/4 teaspoons each of kosher salt, coarse ground pepper, onion powder, and garlic powder. In the smoking world, it's affectionately known as spog for obvious reasons. So I'm just going to sprinkle that mixture over my ribs. Put half on each side. Make sure you get the ends. And last a little bit on these ends. And then this has got to go into the smoker, but you want to let it sit for about 15 minutes for that rub to set on there. Then it's going to go into a 225 degree smoker. So I'll see you outside in a couple of minutes. So I'm out here at my smoker, and I'm just going to put the ribs in. There we go. And they're going to stay in there for 3 hours at 225 degrees Fahrenheit. And every half hour, I'm just going to give them a spray with some apple juice. What that does is put some liquid, sweet liquid on, which makes a nicer bark or crust on it. And also liquids take in the smoke. Smoke is water soluble, so you'll get a bit more smoke on the surface of the ribs in the 3 hours. I'll see you back in about 3 hours. So the ribs were in the smoker for 3 hours. And as you can see, they got a beautiful red color to them and a nice crust on them. That's called the bark. And now we're going to wrap them up in foil. When you cook them, at first you're trying to get that bark on it. Going to wrap them in foil so moisture develops and helps softens the ribs up. So that's this next step. So we'll just wrap them up here. Just try and get them nice and tight. There we go. So these ribs have to go back into the heat for another 2 hours to let that moisture soften up the meat. Now, these are prime ribs, and they're pretty tender to begin with, but they have a lot of fat, so it also gets the fat to render and go into the meat. The great thing about this method is it can be used for prime ribs, for regular long beef ribs, or for the blade ribs or short ribs, which have a lot more meat on them. It works fine for all of them. So I'm just going to put this in the smoker for another 2 hours. Because it's in foil, it's not going to get any more smoke on it. You could even put it in a 225 degree oven for 2 hours. But I'm going to put it in the smoker just because it's a nice day and I want to be outside. I'll see you in a couple of hours. So the beef ribs have been in the foil for 2 hours at 225 degrees Fahrenheit. So what we're going to do is just take them out of the foil. Be careful doing this because it's going to have hot steam coming out. And we'll just lift them up and take them right out of the foil. There we go. And put them on the grill. Now that we've got them out of the foil, we want to put some sauce on them. So you can use any barbecue sauce you like with beef. Just make your own or buy some commercial. But put a layer of barbecue sauce over both sides of the ribs. Okay, now that we've done that side, we're just going to give them a flip and do the other side. Now, what I'm going to do is leave these go in the heat for another 10 minutes to get the sauce to start to set. Then I'm going to give it another brushing with sauce and another 10 minutes. And then our ribs should be done. So I'll see you inside in about 20 minutes. So I gave the ribs a brush of sauce, cooked them for 10 minutes, gave them a second brush of sauce, cooked them for another 10 minutes. And now they're done. Now I let them rest for 5 to 10 minutes just to let the juices go between them. But let's see how they look. You can see they're nicely glazed, got a wonderful color. We'll just cut one of them off. And if you look at the meat here, you'll see it's got a wonderful red smoke ring and it's incredibly juicy. So let's have a taste. Just cut some of the meat off. Oh, it's fork tender, folks, let me tell you. That has a big beefy taste that you only get from beef ribs. It's got a nice moisture. It's got a great crust on the outside, really tender on the inside. That is a great beef rib. The sauce just gives it a touch of sweet, which I like. You just couldn't make better beef ribs, but guess what? You can make it.
I have a good woman. I ain't good looking, but I do some cooking. I'm the old fat guy. So use that oven if you want some lovin'. Be like the old fat guy. Be like the old fat guy.